Welcome to Meddkit's Provider Spotlight, where every week we are meeting the most amazing private practices from all over the United States. Every week we have someone new, we have a new perspective, but most importantly, we're learning new things, really important things, and people are doing amazing things for their community that should be shouted from the rooftops and heard all over the United States. So that's why we're here today. And we have a really awesome special guest for you. I am super excited to introduce Christa Welch. She's the owner of Betty Center in Annapolis, Maryland. Welcome, Christa. We're so excited.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're super excited to have you on today. We just love what you're doing. But for everyone else here, would love to get a little bit of your background, your story, and what ultimately maybe inspired you to open up Betty Center.
Yeah, well, it's kind of a winding road, but all roads led me here to Betty Center, as I guess that's true for most of us in life, right? We pick and we move through different chapters of our story, and ultimately, for us and for me, Betty Center is the culmination of lots and lots of twists and turns in the road. So, Betty Center is a therapy practice and women's center. We work with women, families, children, adults, teens, doing traditional clinical therapy. But we also we like to say we're a therapy practice and more. So we have our goal is to provide women and their families at all different life stages all of the resources that they need to make themselves the very best people they can be at whatever juncture of their own path or story they're facing. So whether that's empty nesting, or whether that's post divorce, whether that's just leaning into having children, maybe you're just starting your career. So for women at all ages and life stages, we have therapy, but we also have other resources. So we have connections with local financial planners, legal resources, life coaches, parent coaches. We actually have an aging specialist that we just brought on board. So we're able to work with our clients to provide them clinical support and other resources that they may need at whatever juncture of their life they might be facing. And I started Betty Center in honor of my mom. My mother's name was Betty Ann. She was like what we call the original Betty. And I was raised in the 70s and 80s. I'm a little older, wiser, I guess. And Betty Ann was our North Star. She was sort of the trailblazer female, my mentor growing up. She was a force to be reckoned with and a trailblazer in a time when that wasn't as um, prominent as it is now. So my mom was a single mom in the 70s and 80s. She raised three kids. My dad did not pay child support, so my mother, instead of laying down and just taking that, there were no child support enforcement laws really, especially across state lines in those days. And we had moved from New York to Virginia, so my mom started a lobby group in our basement of our church and wound up getting the laws changed for child support enforcement in Virginia. And I have pictures of myself standing with my mom and my two brothers in 1980 watching the child support laws get changed in the state of Virginia, and then ultimately she helped get them passed federally. So she was a go-getter. She was an advocate for social change, and she met those challenges. My brother was a special needs kiddo. Special education services were very limited in those days, and my mom was a fighter for him. So she taught me how to get back up when you fall down and how to use the system to, advocate for change. And if the system isn't working, then you go out and change it yourselves. And so that's how I was raised. And we lost my mom too soon when my kids were young and I was younger, and we really miss her. And I went back to school after some challenges in my own journey, in my own life. Went back to graduate school at the ripe old age of, I graduated at the age of 47 and got my master's in social work. So this is a second career for me. And I always said that I wanted to offer and create a location, a space where women and their families could be supported in all of the ways that we know women and their families need to be supported, and in the ways that my mom didn't have, and kind of had to go out and create those opportunities for herself. And so Betty Center is our homage to that. And we've been in business about little over 2 years now, and we are definitely meeting some needs in our community that had not been met previously.
Yes, I think there should be a Betty Center in all of the United States. I think all of every state in the United States there should be one because I love one. This is a beautiful tribute to your mom. This great story of female empowerment and just not only where rubber meets the road, where you're getting clinical services, but then it's like, okay, now these women have somewhere else that they can also go to push that agenda forward instead of maybe doing the research themselves. Or
Mhm.
I don't know if I like or trust this person that I met on the internet, and then you already have these great group of people lined up that they can interact with. That's
Yeah.
really
Yeah, we love it. We love it. The resources that we provide to connect women and our families are exactly what you said. They're experts in their field and they're vetted. We've done the research for our clients so they don't have to do that. They can trust that the resources that we're providing are the what we believe to be the best ones. And we feel very confident. A lot of times, when you're in transition or when you're facing a difficult challenge in your life, the last thing you want to do is search through 1,000 Google reviews to try to figure out, what you need. And so, this is a great way for us to offer those support services to women and do that homework for them.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, you're so right. When you're kind of going through it and you feel overwhelmed and it feels like another thing on top of your plate. And when
Yep.
this can just be presented to you of like, here's an all-in-one, like let's talk about what's happening, let's make some forward movement in some other areas and connect with like-minded people who really truly understand. That's so ingenious. I'm so glad that you're doing this for your community and kind of speaking about the community and population that you serve. Are there maybe you could talk about some of the most common things that you feel like your organization is really drilling down in that you're really helping people with, but maybe there are some uncommon things that you help address that people may not know that you guys do, but you do them. So I love to
Yeah.
hear both.
Well, those are great questions. And, to answer the first one, most of the population that we serve are women and men, by the way, but women and their families in transition point, right? So typically they're moving from point A to point B, whatever that might be. And even point A to point B might be you're cooking along and you've got two kiddos in elementary school and everybody's fine. And then all of a sudden you've got a kid or your little one is suddenly struggling socially or behaviorally and you don't know what to do. So you can reach out to Betty Center and we can support you either on the parent coaching side, because sometimes our kids aren't the ones that need the mental health support. Actually, we as the parents might need that. So you can reach out to Betty Center for a parent coach, or you can reach out for your child to get child therapy. So we see kids and at all, starting at about age 6. We typically don't see teeny tinies, but we see 6 and up.
Mhm.
We also, one of our clinicians is expertly trained in EMDR. All of us are trauma trained, but Dina, one of our clinicians, is our EMDR provider. So we do provide that service, and people really, of course, as we know, that's a modality that's very popular and very helpful. And Victoria, our child clinician, is also an expert in OCD. So she's really skilled working with kids and also untying the knots that some of our kids come to therapy with. So, for example, we had a little one who came in. She was about 10 and was presenting with some OCD symptoms, but then it turned out that there were some other underlying conditions. Ultimately, we referred that child out. Victoria was in very good communication with the child's pediatrician. We were working hand in hand to try to figure out what was going on. And we wound up referring the child to a specialty practice up at Johns Hopkins here in nearby Baltimore. And the child wound up with a significant underlying medical condition that was really actually generating some of these OCD symptoms. And once they got the child medicated, the OCD symptoms went away. And so that's a great example of us really, really focusing in on our clients and what they need and understanding that, in Victoria, when she referred that child out, it was hard for her to tell that parent, listen, this child may need more and we might not be the right people for you. And the parent at the time felt a little bit like, oh my gosh, but I really want to stay with you. And we said, we know you do, and we think this is what's best for the child. And the mom reached back out to Victoria about a month ago and said, thank you so much. I see now that what you did was what was best for our family, and we're so grateful to you. And so it really was a wonderful outcome for everybody. And it was an example of us saying, we don't, we think there's more going on here with this kiddo and we can't address it.
Yeah.
We're going to make an appropriate warm handoff referral. And that wound up being exactly what that child needed.
I have you kind of gave me goosebumps as you were telling me that. You know, I think this is what healthcare was meant to be like.
Right.
We have a duty to our clients and our patients to put them first. And I think this is what private practice is all about. And I love your collaboration with other healthcare folks in your community to better serve the people around you. And I think that is really unique and special in terms of what you guys are doing. If it's not a fit for you, hey, I have other people too. Christa, you're like a resource woman, you're awesome. I love that. I think that's such a great testament to you and to Betty Center and to your therapists that are evaluating, whoever it might be and saying, hey, what's actually best for this individual at this
Yeah, thank you. And it's about checking and leaving your ego at the door, right? So this is not about, I want to be this child's therapist and I'm going to figure this out myself, and no matter what it takes. And no, it's about understanding, hey, I've done the research, I've used all my interventions, I've used all my skills. My gut is still telling me something isn't working, and we're going to do what's best for this child. And I tell you, the mom is so grateful, and she's going to forever be a Betty Center fan, right? I mean, she's in our tribe now, and she knows that we're here for her because she can trust now that we were really putting her child and her family first.
I love that. I mean, eh, even just in the first few minutes of you just telling us your background, your story, what Betty Center is about, you obviously are very differently positioned in your community. I see that. That's very clear. Is anything else about how you approach, your clients or your community, would you say different? If is there something else that you're like, man, this is something else that we do, whether it's other types of programming or what
Mhm.
have you, what's different? And, how have you also become a resource for, families that are around you guys?
Well, I mean, I think that's a good question. Because all three of us, Dina, Victoria, and myself, are clinically trained social workers. And so, as you know, social workers come, we're social justice warriors. We come at this work a little bit more holistically, not to say that LGP or LCPCs don't,
Yeah,
or marriage and family therapists don't. It's just we're trained to look at person in the environment, and that is how we serve our clients, and that is how Betty Center is built. And we are so as a business, we're also very concerned and prioritize our connections with other businesses, right? So we're about collaborating with other businesses. We believe that there's room for everybody at the table. And so we're not in competition with other local practices. We believe that every practice is serving their client base to the best of their ability, and we're all here to provide quality mental health support and other services to our clients. And in order to do that, we have to know what our strengths and our challenges or weaknesses are, and be able to refer out when needed or just collaborate with other practices. Recently, we were on a panel with a women in business panel in the community, and we were sort of sharing our vision of, it's not a scarcity mentality,
Mm.
right? It's a mentality of abundance. There is enough for all of us to go around. And I think sometimes as women business owners, we have this fear factor that
Yeah.
develops where it's like, I've got to protect my brand. I don't want to feel in competition with others. What is she doing over there that's encroaching on my market share? And we really don't feel that way. We believe that there's room at the table for all of us and that we're better kind of together. And so that is our approach. And we found that that really comes back to us in many, many ways, tangible and intangible.
Yeah. I mean, when people feel comfortable and when people feel like you are putting them first, or are willing to refer out or other things, yeah, of course, that should totally come back tenfold because that's a genuine thing. That's a genuine thing that people can latch onto and say, hey, you weren't like, oh, I'm going to hold all these things hostage and not give you any of the answers or help
Mhm.
you, fellow community member. I'm here. Let me extend an arm, olive branch, whatever that might be, and let's help each other. And that doesn't that help everyone in the end?
Right. I mean, I think that, what we all want, especially in the mental health space, is for there to be access to quality mental health for as many clients and folks in the community as possible. So wouldn't we want as many quality practices to be growing and sharing resources and staying connected to each other so that we can almost build a safety net of support for families and members of our community who really need it.
Yes. And guess what? People really need it. Like, look at the world right now. Look at where
Mhm.
we are. Look at how many people do need the help and don't know how to seek it out, or scared, nervous to. And wouldn't it be nice to have a lot of great people that are there to be that safety net, like you put it. And I think what you're doing, not only for Betty Center, but for your community, is fabulous in that arena. But I would love, because you almost maybe hit on it a tad, but it's kind of steering to a hard right in terms of, I think everyone has misconceptions within, their field, whether they're in dermatology, they're in
Mhm.
mental or behavioral health. And I think every specialty has its own thing of, oh, like, people said this was going to be like this and it turned out to be like that. Oh, I'm so glad. I was so nervous. I'm sure there's like a lot of people that get started are, you know, a little bit nervous. Some maybe not. Some are like, I need this. Let's go. I like, tell me everything that I need to know. But what would you say are some of the things that you're constantly debunking in this day and age? Uh, what does Krista have to say aside from Dr. Google and Dr. ChatGPT?
I'm hearing you, and I want to make sure I'm clear. Are you asking about misconceptions around therapy and
Yeah,
accessing services, or first time therapy users? Is that kind of what you're thinking
yeah.
about?
I think there's some misconceptions around
Mhm.
there. But in general, I'm sure. And the couple years that Betty Center has been open, people might have misconceptions about, what this is, how it can help them. And what do you kind of say to people that are apprehensive, that, don't know about starting their journey? And what's a great way to kind of ease the fears, for folks who are trying to maybe put one toe into the water?
I mean, I think it's a great question. I think in every industry there are industry experts who start to speak in industry code, which wound up what is lingo and jargon, and people from the outside don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Um, and so, for example, I just joined a Facebook group that I saw that is um, in my community for fresh fruits and vegetables and meats and things. You can purchase, every week. This woman has it's like a co-op kind of a thing, and I've never done anything like that before. And so I joined the group, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to make sense of the acronyms. There are all these different acronyms, and I don't know what they're talking about when they're saying this CSA box is available. And I want to actually, I have to be now the person who's going to say, what is a CSA box? I don't know what you're talking about, right? It's the same for therapy.
Mhm.
And therapists who speak in jargon and code and throw around a bunch of um, monikers, and even it's kind of found its way into the general population lexicon, and still people are confused. So people come to us and they might say, I want CBT therapy, or I want DBT therapy because that's what my neighbor said I should have, or that's what somebody said is really, really good, and that's what I want. And so oftentimes we sort of sit back and or they come to us and go, I don't really want to go to therapy, but my husband said that he thinks I really need it. I don't think I need it. So what are you going to do for me? Kind of thing.
Interesting.
Um,
Yeah.
and so I've had both of those experiences. And with I have one client now who's been with me for a while, and she is. It turns out, I mean, her husband is a wonderful, supportive person, and it turns out that she really does have incredibly complex childhood trauma that is very, very severe and debilitating. And we've been working so gently but so diligently together. And the way that and she sort of said early on, I'm here because he said I should come because he's concerned about me. And I said, okay. And so about 3 weeks in, or maybe a couple weeks in, she said, I don't know if this is really working. And I said, I hear you. I absolutely hear you. And if this isn't what you want to do, I fully support that.
Yep.
And if you give me a chance and you give me a little time, and we can take this journey together and explore a little bit more,
Yep.
I have a feeling you're going to uncover some things that are really going to be valuable for you, but it is your choice.
Yep.
And just by saying that to her, she gave me a chance. And cut to, we've been together a year, and the work that she's done is amazing. And I mean, every time I see her, I want to hug her. I don't, but I want to hug her so much because she's working so hard, and she's relaxed into the space. And I did that by giving her the autonomy to
Yeah.
say and decide for herself, even though she kind of felt pushed into it because, her husband, who cares a lot about her, was sort of like, I need you to do this. And
Right.
she was an unwilling participant to some extent. Obviously, she wouldn't have crossed
Sure.
the threshold of Betty Center if she was a completely unwilling participant.
Right.
But she was hesitant and she was skeptical. And I met her right where she was, and we walked that journey together. And I built that trust because I listened to what she was saying. And then when I have clients, or we have clients all the time say, I want DBT therapy. And we say, okay, tell us what you mean by that. And really, usually we're able to sort of help people uncover, let's not put the cart before the horse. Let's not say, I want DBT therapy. Let's figure out what's going on with you, and then figure out how to address the problem from there.
Right. So this is why I love this question because, out of like 5 years and, you produced a whole answer for me that no one's ever talked about before. And this is really fascinating. What you said in the beginning about, therapists, sometimes using, you know, therapist jargon,
Yep.
that others don't understand. I think your example, I think everyone has felt that way. They read online and they see some abbreviation, or they see something, they're a part of a group, and they just get in, they're like, what is that? I should know
Yeah.
what it is. And then it makes you feel like, like, what am I doing? Makes you a little uneasy. And
Mhm.
I think to meet people where they are
Mhm.
is really fantastic, because I do think that, when you're in this new space and you're going to be vulnerable, the last thing you want to feel is even more unsure of yourself, and feel like, I'm not, maybe this is not what I should be doing. I don't understand these terms or what this means. And maybe this isn't for me because I should know what this is. And so
Right.
I think that's super, super wise, along with the story about your client. And I love how you kind of let her redefine this for herself, um,
Mhm.
even though it was something that was, that she was kind of pushed forward to do, and,
Mhm.
said this might help you, that she actually in the end got to decide for herself, like, I am gonna do this. And I think that's a very, very unique story, Krista.
Well, and every time she comes, I think to myself, she's making a choice every 2 weeks to walk through these
Yeah,
doors and prioritize herself, and she keeps coming back. And what I always tell people, one of the things that's amazing about being a therapist, and again, I've come to this work a little bit later in life. So I had a previous career in communications doing nothing similar to therapy. And so this has been one of the discoveries for me about doing therapy is watching the human condition as it is and the human spirit and the fascinating pieces of what humans are and can do. And one of the things that I see over and over and over again is that pe- people walk the walk, right? So she wouldn't be here if she didn't actually want to change things in her life.
yeah,
I mean, she wouldn't be, right? So I'm watching her make a conscious decision to walk into our doors and into my office every other week and unpack these very difficult conversations. It's ringing, but um, so I'm watching her do that every other week, and I'm watching her make that decision for herself, and it is because actions always speak louder than words.
yeah,
Let's not forget. We can say all we want that we care about this or we don't care about that, or this is my priority or that is my priority. But ultimately, what really defines our lives is what we do,
yeah.
not what we say. And so the fact that she's here every other week, prioritizing her own self, is a testament to actually she's showing up for herself. And that's amazing.
Yes, and a word that I feel like, but between the history and the mission of Betty Center to everything that you've talked about today, a lot of people have really shown resilience,
Mhm.
through everything that they're going through, to keep on pushing to come. And I would love to know, you gave a great example of helping this woman, but maybe if you have one more thing to share about maybe how you help people discover their own resilience, and maybe some pro tips from the pro out here on what to do when you get knocked down, and how to get back up from that. I think that's a real tribute, to your mom as well, who was that pioneer, in your life, and so many other women's lives. So I'd love to hear from you on that.
Yeah, thank you for that because, honestly, one of the things that we have realized over the last few years with Betty Center, and it was just really confirmed through for us through this project that I'll get to in a minute that we have created called Women with Scars. But one of the things that we realized that Betty Center really is an opportunity for a platform for hope. It's
Mhm.
a place to be able to show up after you've gotten knocked down, after life has given you the lemons, after things have been difficult, and learn through therapy, through life coaching, through support groups, through workshops, how to get back up, make lemonade out of those yucky lemons, and keep on going. That is ultimately at the end of the day, that is what Betty Center is because that's what Betty Ann, my mom, was. That's what she did every day. She got back up when life kicked her to down, and she showed me what that looked like by walking that walk. And
Mhm.
so now Betty Center is a place where we help women discover that resilience for themselves. So one of the ways we do that is by constantly reminding people, and in fact we made a social media post about it just today, is this idea of what is self confidence? So people think self confidence is all about people saying, "Oh my gosh, Rachel, you're so smart. You're so pretty. I love that, you have the best job. Wow." That's not what self-confidence is.
Yep.
That doesn't do anything for you.
Mhm.
Self-confidence is about agency and mastery over skills. Self-confidence is about learning how to do a thing, even if you have to try and try again and fail 300 times, and then you finally figure out how to do it, or you acquire that skill or that piece of knowledge, and now you have it, and
Yep.
that makes you more self-confident, more resilient than you were the day before. And that is how you get back up after you fall down. You take inventory of the things you already can do, even when life is the absolute worst. I mean, when my first husband left me and my 2 children, it was not my favorite day or year, I can
Yeah.
tell you. It was a very difficult time, and I had to really dig deep to find out, what I feel pretty bad. I mean, I feel pretty, I felt like I was kicked to the curb. I felt like I wasn't worth all that much, that there wasn't really much left to me and for me. And I realized I had to take stock of what I actually could still do. I could still be a mom. I loved being a mom. I was going to still be a mom. I could still be a daughter. I could still be a friend. And I made the list of all the things I could do, even silly things. I can cook. I love to read. I can walk, in my neighborhood with my friends. I can go to the gym. So when I started to sort of take stock of the things that I could do, it made me proud of myself. I literally had to list the things that I could do. And so I do that with my clients sometimes. We'll make a list of all the things, big and small that you actually can do. I mean, and the examples that I often use are, think about when kids, whether it was when you were a kid or if you have children and you think about your own children, what do they do when they first learn to write their name
Yep.
or pedal that bike for the first time or tie their shoe? The very first thing they do is they look up at their mom and they say, "I did it." That is what self-confidence is. It's a brick by brick by brick into our into our human spirit that says, "I can do it, and no one can ever take that away from me." And so we help people rebuild that resilience or build it, um, when life is giving them a difficult time, or even if it isn't. And they're just in a transition time. They're moving from job to job. Their husband, they just got transferred here and they don't know anybody. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why we need to review our own resilience. And one of the things that we did recently is we identified some women in our community that have visible and invisible scars. So literally, um, organ donors with big scars on their bellies, breast cancer survivors who have mastectomy scars. We have women who have been victims of violent crime, either themselves or their husband or son or daughter has been a victim of violent crime. So women with visible and invisible scars. And we took 11 of their photos and we blew them up, 2 feet by 3 feet, and we wrote their little stories in a little plaque. And we have 11 of those photos in Betty Center now. And it's a Women with Scars, Strength in the Storm photo exhibit. And it's a visual reminder and visual manifestation of resilience at work. So some of these women, one woman's husband was murdered in her front yard, and she had to literally figure out how to tell her 6 children that their father was killed. And she has since gone back to school, become a professional counselor. She's a grandmother now, and she counsels other women and families going through traumatic incidents. I mean, just the stories of resilience are incredible. And so those are visual reminders for our Betty Center clients that if these women can do it, so can you. And now we've had so much interest in the program that we've got local community leaders who want to see the photos. We've got people who are interested in showcasing the photos around our community in Annapolis. So people are hungry for those stories of hope, especially now.
Yeah.
We're able to showcase, these real stories of real people who have really been knocked down by life and been able to get back up.
I love that. I mean, it's such a testament again to what you guys are doing, but I think not everyone has explained or maybe have even heard what confidence actually looks like. I think you explain what people falsely think it is. And I think not only for me, but for everyone listening, I think something just clicked for all of them and thinking about maybe the one time you're really proud of yourself, whether it was like you built a fan, like,
Mhm.
and was like, I'm not. You're like, oh my God, like I am not Mr. Fix It, but here I am. Like I built this, I hate doing this stuff. And now I'm
Yes.
fix things all the time,
Yeah.
and so yeah, building those things, what little small are all confidence boosters. And yes, like it is such a childhood even memory or
Mhm.
item that's like I did it. I'm proud of myself, and to have that independence. Um,
Yes.
no, and so I really love your explanation of that because I don't think people often get to hear that kind of truth in life, and they
Yeah.
get
I
brainwashed
think
a little bit.
we think that self-confidence is about external validation, people telling you you look cute and or I love that this or that thing.
Mm,
And that's fine. Those are compliments, but that doesn't build self-confidence. And if you don't have trust in yourself, you and I both know people can tell you a million times, you look great, you seem super, you're so smart. But if you don't feel that way yourself,
doesn't
no words are going to change that.
Not at all. Not at all. So
Yeah.
I really adore this explanation of, you know, resilience, but confidence, and
Mhm.
how you've been able to instill that into your community, but also show your community that we are one. Like, look what some of these people have done here with their lives and how they've stood up against their traumas and have
Mhm.
moved forward. It may not have been the most beautiful path, but
Right.
they got there, and you can. And so thank you for instilling hope on this wonderful podcast series. I love this. And before we leave off today, I would love if you could tell folks, where they can find you online,
Mhm.
or since you just had this event, I'm not sure if anything else is coming up this fall for
Yeah.
Betty Center, but feel free to tell us. We'd love to know.
Thank you. Yeah, well, our website is Betty Center Connect, Betty Center Connect.com. And we can be found on Instagram at Betty Center underscore Maryland and on Facebook at Betty Center on Facebook and on LinkedIn as well, Betty Center. And, the Women with Scars Project actually has its own tab on our website now. We've had a lot of interest. You can, the exhibit is also there to raise money for a local foundation that we support in town called the Young Foundation here at Annapolis. And what they do is help reduce mental health stigma and suicide prevention for first responders. I don't know if people know, but a lot of times our first responders, our firemen, our police, they're hesitant to ask for mental health help
Yeah.
because they're afraid they're going to get their guns or their badges taken away. And as a result, the suicide rates are incredibly high in those populations. And so part of the Women with Scars project, we hope to raise awareness around resilience for everybody, women and men, and also to support efforts to really bring down those suicide rates in our first responder communities and destigmatize the mental health fears that a lot of our first responders have because they are on our front lines every day seeing crime and seeing sometimes the hardest parts of humanity, and we want them to be able to get the mental health support they deserve. So our webpage on Medi Center has all the information about the Scars Project. We'd love to have it travel and be hung in libraries and malls and schools, not just in Annapolis, but whoever would like to have it, it's ready to go. And we're even thinking that we'd love to take more pictures of more women and men too, and have more photos because not only are the photos lovely, but the experience of having the photos taken in and of itself is a very healing experience.
Yes.
And we've heard that from every single participant in the photo exhibit that they found it to be a very empowering experience for them. And so we would love to open that opportunity up to others. So if people are listening and they live, don't be deterred by the Annapolis zip code. We welcome you from anywhere. And we're opening this idea up, as you said, to other parts of the country because we know there's hope. We've got to send that hope out to as many people as we can.
I love it. I think you guys have such an incredible mission. Krista, I want to thank you so much for, not only sharing your story, but your mom, Betty Ann. She sounded incredible. And I'm so glad that you had started this in her honor and to help your community. And today was fantastic. So thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.